What's up everyone, it's Bones here. In today's video, I'll be providing a small update to my last go zombie deck, but before I begin, if you're a fan of in-depth combo videos, new set coverage, and occasional fun stuff that we like to do on the channel, then haunt those thumbs up and subscribe buttons. I hear that they change colors when you click fear into them. For this first hand, as you see we won't be doing any combos, I'll just be going over full hands. If you do want to see a combo video on just the ghost stuff, I'll leave a link down to it below. To begin, we're going to start here by using the instant fusion, paying 1k, and this will allow us to lose life points so that we can normal summon the ghost wyvern, and then we can use the wyvern's effect in order to get us the ghost fusion. Now we can activate the ghost fusion, and it feels good when you can send the ghost wyvern off of the ghost fusion from the field, as we will send or banish the Spiridow so that we can then banish the ghost wyvern and bring it back, and then use the effect in order to get a foolish of a zombie, which will send the Mizuki, and then we'll be able to go into our Beatrice, use the Beatrice effect as we'll detach the Garura, and I would like to point out that specific hands where you may want to use something like Glow Up Bloom on your opponent's turn off of the Beatrice, you can end up saving your detach of the Garura for the next turn so that you can chain block it, but I'm not going to do that here as we're going to send the Unizombie. We'll then use the effect of Garura as we'll be able to get our draw as we see the Foxy Tune, use the effect of the Mizuki as we'll revive the Unizombie, use the Unizombie's effect, which will then be able to get us another foolish as we're going to send the Necro World Banshee, use its effect as we're going to get ourselves the zombie world, then go into our vampire sucker, as then we can use the Imseti pitching the Xiamen, and you'll see that we're actually going to do something really cool here as we're going to get ourselves the King Sarcophagus, activate the King Sarcophagus so that we can get back the Imseti, use the effect of the vampire sucker, getting ourselves the draw into the happy, which kind of sucks, but we then send the Imseti by discarding or sending the happy, and then we can go into our vampire zombie as we'll use its effect, which will allow us to mill 4 from both, as we'll then be able to revive the Hela, and this is a tech that I'm playing in this particular build because it's 60, and it's another search / special summon off of Bloom, and the plays that this allows is kind of crazy overall, because even on your own turn, it can serve as a pseudo extender that just creates better going first turns, as we're going to use the effect of the Foxy Tune pitching the Book of Eclipse, getting ourselves the Deer Note, and now keep in mind we do have a Xiamen in the graveyard, and because of Zombie World it is a zombie, so we can use the effect of Hela in order to bring back the Xiamen, and then go into our Omega, use the effect of the Deer Note in order to bring back the Ogre Dance, and then you can use the Ogre Dance effect in order to get yourself a search, so that you have the discard for the Super Poly on your opponent's turn. From here we'll set the Super Poly, go on to the end phase where we can then use the Ghost Wyvern, which will end up sending the Glow Up Bloom. From here we'll be able to special summon the Ballardrock off of the Glow Up Bloom, giving us an extra pair of disruptions for our opponent's turn. Though as you see they do have Book of Eclipse, and I am going to show what happens if they do hit you with the Book of Eclipse, and this is another place where I really like Hela, and you see that we can use the Beatrice in response to the Book of Eclipse, and this will give us an extra disruption. We'll also be able to chain the Hela because it is a quick effect, and we're going to send the Omega because at this point we can't use its effect since it's not the main phase, and then you also have the ability to revive something like Garura, so you can end up super polying with it in order to get yourself another draw. We'll also be able to get the draw that we get off of Sucker for the revival, so we're going to end up getting 2 draws off of this interaction, along with anything else that you get from the Book of Eclipse, assuming that you survive. But that said, you also could have hand traps in the hand that just aren't teleport / the Xiamen. You see that we sent the Keldo off of the Beatrice, which is just more interactions that we have for our opponent's turn. And with that, I'll take you on to the next one. Now, for this next combo, you'll see that we'll be playing against Droll and Book of Eclipse, and we're going to start here by activating the Sharon, pitching the Ghost Sleeper, and then we can use the Sleeper's effect. As you see, we get some mills there for the Wanted along with the Ogre Dance, and the Ogre Dance is a really solid card to have in the graveyard because if you can get it back, you get into your Punk engine, but we're not going to be able to do that in this case because as you see, we do get hit by Droll, and we're going to special summon out the Assault Synchron, now paying the life points for it, as we'll then go into the Immortal Dragon, use the Immortal Dragon, which will send the Mizuki. Now we can activate the Ghost Fusion. We'll be able to bring out the Garura, as we're going to use the effect of the Spiri to bring that back, banishing the Immortal Dragon. We'll then use the Spiri in order to get that extra foolish for the Unizombie, go into our Beatrice, Beatrice. Now, again, you can either detach the Garura if you want to protect your glow-up bloom. You can keep it as a material on Beatrice like we just did, but we're going to then use the effect of the Necroworld Banshee for the zombie world so that we can then use the Mizuki, bring back the Unizombie, use the effect of the Unizombie, as this will give us the ability to get that extra send to the graveyard for another Mizuki. We'll use the Mizuki bringing back the Spiri. Like this, we can end up going for the Baron, so now we've effectively played around the Droll and Lockbird, and we have that negation for the Book of Eclipse, where then we'll go on to our opponent's turn, and you'll see that my opponent is going to get the wanted quick play. We'll use the effect of the Beatrice, or use the effect of the Bloom, and chain block it with the Garura, as we're then going to get the draw along with the effect of the Bloom. And keep in mind, if you do happen to draw into the Balor, you can just get yourself the Hela. Now, for the final one, this is kind of just like the all-gas hand, and we're going to start this one during the draw phase with the wanted quick play and E-Tele, so this will get us to search for the Dia Bellstar and the special summon of Xiamen, as we're then going to be able to go onto our main phase, use the effect of Xiamen, and at this point, if you get Drolled, kind of hurts, but it's not the end of the world because you do still get the special summon of the Deer Note off of the Foxy Tune. You have the ability to then go into your zombie vampire and just kind of pray, but we're then going to use the effect of the Foxy Tune pitching the Ghost Sleeper, as we'll then be able to bring out the Deer Note, use the effect of the Ghost Sleeper as we'll get ourselves the Ghost Fusion, go into our Omega, as we'll then be able to use the effect of Deer Note bringing back the Foxy Tune, use the effect of Imseti, and this is another nice thing about the P.U.N.K engine. Say that you don't have an extra discard that you want to use for the King Sarcophagus, or an extra send rather, because in this case we have the Ghost Fusion and the Dia Bellstar, which aren't the greatest sends. Activate the King Sarcophagus, get back the Imseti, and like this you have the rank 8 access without having to use your Omega either. So that's pretty cool, and we'll use the effect of the Zombie Vampire. As you see, we do hit the Hela, and any time that you hit it, it's almost worth always special summoning it, because it's not going to be difficult to get your Necroworld Banshee into the graveyard to turn everything in your graveyard into zombies, so there's really cool things that you can do with that as well. As you'll see momentarily, we're going to use the Spiri, use the effect of Spiri on field in order to send the Unizombie, go into our Beatrice, then use the Beatrice effect, detaching the Garura, send the Necroworld Banshee, use the effect of the Garura, then chain the effect of the Necroworld Banshee to get ourselves the zombie world so that we don't draw into it, and then get ourselves the effect of Mizuki, which will be able to bring back the Unizombie, use the Unizombie's effect, which will get us an extra send, as we're then going to send the second copy of Mizuki, use the effect of Mizuki to bring back the Assault Synchron, and this is what I mean by the cool plays that you can do. Technically, you can bring back the Garura, then go into a level 10 Synchro like that, or you can just link away into Vampire Sucker, but there is an alternative line in which you can actually just make your Baron like this, and then use the effect of the Hela in order to tribute off the Unizombie, bring back the Omega because it is a zombie under Zombie World, and then we can use the Dia Bellstar, sending the Hela to the graveyard. During our opponent's standby phase, we can use the Omega to get back a Mizuki into our graveyard so we can revive it and keep that going. So then we'll get ourselves the Silvera off of the Dia Bellstar, we'll set the Super Poly, and with this, I'll take you on to the deck profile. So with the test hands out of the way, this is what I really wanted to get to. As you see, there's a lot of space for going second cards, and you see that I've even fit some crossouts along with the Called by the 3 talents to combat all the hand traps that are going around. I still am choosing to play board breakers though, just because I feel Super Poly is really good in a diverse format where there's so many decks that you can hit and your opponent can't respond to it. Then the econs are here just because I feel not only are they good this format, but when you have the accessibility of the Horus cards that continuously revive themselves, along with stuff like Mizuki that can bring stuff back that you get your Mizukis back from Omega, and just a lot of ways to really make those econs live. Same thing with Balor Drock and stuff like that. Then there's Book of Eclipse, which is just a going second card, which can auto-bait a negation, and I thought that was pretty nice. Of course, you can play stuff like Nibiru, other hand traps that you can play if you want to play hand traps over board breakers, but I would like to also reiterate the importance of some of these quick play spells, because there will be hands where, say, you may draw into your wanted spell card, and then you happen to see like Droll Book of Eclipse, Super Poly, Imperm, and then you just end up pitching a Super Poly or whatever off of the Diabell Star, get your Silvera, and then you kind of just play back row control. That said, I feel the test hands I showed are a more accurate representation of what you're trying to do with all the combo heavy stuff that we play, like the E-Tellies, the Imseti, in order to get your Happy into the graveyard along with the King Sarcophagus on board so that you can go into your Zombie Vampire. You'll see that we're only on 3 Link monsters. Another name that you can play if you would like to is the Vampire Fascinator, and this is a Link 3 that you could play if you want another target for Masquerena under Zombie World, but I just didn't think it was worth it because when you go into Masquerena, you're either going into SP or you're going into Sucker, and if you aren't going into Masquerena, then you're going into one of the other two, or you're just making Exceed or Synchro plays. So that's why it's not in the extra deck, and that's why there's also so many extra deck options below that you can play if you would like to. Then there's also the original Sinful Spoils. Say that you don't want to play the Hela because it's an extra brick, and same thing with the Silvera because that is some consistency issues that these cards kind of bring to the deck. Then you can play the original along with Jet Synchron, but I just didn't feel the payoff was as big as you get from the Silvera along with the Hela, especially the Hela. From my previous list, I bumped it down to 1 Ghost Wyvern instead of the 3 or 2 that we were playing before, and we've bumped up the Hellfire Sleeping Beauty, reason being that Imseti plus this is just great, and then you also have the Foxy Tune, which can pitch it. You also have stuff like Unizombie, which can as well. You can send it from the deck to the graveyard with the Immortal Dragon if you get access into that. You'll also see that I'm only playing 1 Ashizu name and 1 tier name, which is a pretty big change from my previous list where we used to play Sprind in order to send the Merly, get ourselves the Dragos Stapelia. I just don't think that you need to do that anymore. The ability to play all these Horus cards along with the Diabell Star engine is just better overall in my opinion. Not only do they add to your board, but they can also serve as extenders depending on what they're sending to the graveyard. But outside of that, I don't really have much else to say. The name of the game with this deck really is you're either going for your Zombie Vampire if you happen to see your Punk stuff, and then you're trying to potentially maybe hit something like Sleeping in the Graveyard so that you can get your Ghost Fusion. There are times also where you may go into the Zombie Vampire with your Horus cards, and then you hit your Ogre Dance off of the Zombie Vampire, revive the Ogre Dance, and then use the Ogre Dance's effect in order to search yourself into the Punk engine that way. And I can't reiterate the importance of Ogre Dance for that reason, and it's why it is in the deck list. So this is something that I just don't believe you should ever take out, even if Droll is relevant in the format. Which takes me back to another point about cross out and the called buys. It's because there are a lot of ways that this deck can get hit by hand traps, especially when you're only seeing 1 or 2 of your combo cards, because then stuff like Imperm become really rough, where if they hit your Zombie Vampire, you may not just have much left. But with that, I'll take you on to the card by card. So we have the 1 Ballardrock, the 1 Ghost Wyvern, the 1 Hela, the 3 Imseti, the 1 Necroworld Banshee, the 2 Hellfire Sleeping Beauty, the 2 King Sarcophagus, the 1 Happy. We then have the Glow Up Bloom, the Ghost Fusion, Instant Fusion, 2 Mizuki, the Unizombie, the 1 Zombie World, the 2 Ogre Dance, the 2 Foxy Tune, the 1 Deer Note, the 2 Xiamen along with the Keldo. We then have the Sharon along with the Abelstar and the Spiri, our 2 copies of Wanted along with the Silvera, the 3 copies of Italy, 3 copies of Assault Synchron, 3 copies of Droll, 3 copies of Talents, 3 copies of Imperm, 3 copies of Super Poly, 1 copy of Called by the Grave, 2 copies of Crossout, 3 copies of Book of Eclipse, 3 copies of Enemy Controller. Onto the extra deck, we have the 1 copy of Mud Dragon, the 1 copy of Garura, the 1 copy of Dragos Stapelia, the 1 copy of Drago Necro. We then have the 1 copy of Immortal Dragon, 1 copy of Omega, the 1 copy of Baron, Beatrice, number 38, Zombie Vampire, Zeus, Typhon, SP, IP, and Vampire Sucker to round out the deck profile. So for everyone who's made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching and for the 600 plus subs. I truly appreciate your support. Now that we've monetized the channel, giving us access to supers and memberships means that more awesome stuff is on the horizon. To get the channel membership, just click on the description below and there will be a link that takes you there. You'll also notice a free Discord link that I've made for us too. If you want to support me as a content creator, even if you can't donate supers or get a membership for the channel, clicking on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons help a lot too. For those wondering, I do plan on making updates to the channel as the support on the channel grows. Anyways, I hope to see you on the next one. It's Bones, signing out.